That's another topic that we were
Yeah.
talking about is it's been challenging, and in fact, I think the Economic Development Committee has tried to push forward with improving signage, but in actuality, I think the P and Z is uh, I don't want to say they've purposely done it, but I know there's been some challenges trying to get P and Z to help move that forward. Anything you'd want to say about that initiative?
I'm not clear on the challenges. I don't know about that. I'm unaware that P and Z was what stalled that. Can you give me more information about that?
Well, my understanding was that P and Z was going to engage a consultant to
Hmm.
help do a study into the signage, among some other things. And then my understanding, I think the consultant, there was a sort of stall, or it might have been financial, but it kind of got put on the back burner, I think. I know that the signage has been something that's been talked about for a long time.
Yeah.
Let's also differentiate too, just to be clear that, signage on Route 7
Yeah.
is something that's different because it has to do with the state and involving the Department of
Right.
Transportation. You've also got the bigger issue of signage and,
Right,
businesses.
but we're
Business.
talking.
So, knowing, that the Economic Development Commission had done surveys of the businesses and residents
Yeah.
signage and trying to improve
Yep.
that, and then making their recommendations to planning and zoning. And that is what has sort of stalled. I mean, what are your thoughts about ways to move that along or other things that can be done to improve Wilton's situation with signage?
Hmm.
But to be clear, we're
Yeah.
talking about wayfinding, the directing, not just a sign on a store. I know that's been under study and discussion too, but talking about the signage that's directing people into the downtown as an example.
Right. Um, I think that it's like the signs for downtown. I understand, we're going to have to work with the state, obviously, but it would be, I think we could potentially have more than one if that helps, as we're heading into town. It would be fantastic to have more of some sort of an archway that really highlights if you make the right or, the left from the Gulf into Wilton Town Center, maybe there's an archway over that says, welcome to Wilton. And then those Route 7 signs can stay as they are because it seems like a grander, like, oh, wow, this is Wilton. Okay. And in terms of Wilton Town Center, I need to be clear on how all of these individual buildings handle signage. So I spoke with a shop owner who has been unhappy with signage, and I was told that it was either the building or is it the Chamber of Commerce who in Wilton Town Center directs what is appropriate for the signage
That's
by building.
it's well, there are regulations, signage regulations
Yeah.
that are, overseen by planning and zoning. They really, any of
Right.
these sign regulations, need to be
Yeah.
approved, and it's based on a certain coverage percentage. And there are
Mhm.
certain rules about, whether or not, signs need to be lit from the ground up
Right.
versus from the inside
Right.
out and things like that. There are all sorts of very
Yeah.
strict rules that Wilton
Right.
has set about
Yeah. I
business.
do need to familiarize myself with all of that, but I also think that the stores and the businesses that are not in the front of, the street that people can see right away, there does need to be better signage that directs people to where those, businesses are. Um, Point Break Tacos was a big example of that. I think a lot of people really liked that restaurant, but it wasn't, I found it once. My friends hardly went. It felt like it was a shame that it was difficult to find. Um, and if you look at Classically Kate's versus there's a tiny sign now that says there's a shoe shop, a shoe store Cobbler around the corner, it's teeny tiny. Classically Kate's is enormous. I think there needs to be some sort of consideration for what's happening to the businesses that aren't front and center. And then does it make sense to have more of a cohesive, even look in terms of the signs?